Hey guys, welcome to the Smart Venture Podcast. In each episode, we're going to have conversations with some of the top investors, superstar founders, as well as well-known tech company executives in Silicon Valley. We'll have a coffee chat with them to learn their way of thinking and actionable tips on how they build or invest in a successful company. Before we start our show today, I want to make sure the listener, aka you, understand that everything a person say on the podcast only reflects hers or his own opinion, not the show or the company they work at. Our guest today is a Chief Product Officer at WW, formerly known as Weight Watchers. She leads the WW member experience across all digital channels. Prior to WW, she was a VP at Walmart and Sephora, where she led product management for all the online shopping and was responsible for the entire portfolio of omni-channel digital experiences across product management and design. Her name is Lucinda Newcomb. Welcome to the second part of the conversation with Lucinda. In the last episode, we talked about how Lucinda started her career in tech and product management. In this episode, we'll focus on learning more about how Lucinda navigates her career as the Chief Product Officer. Please enjoy. You mentioned that your team is not lack of ideas. Identifying what's the right idea and execute on it is really important. What are 3 things you measure when it comes to figuring out what to build? You mentioned that you guys are targeting the millennials and their moms. That's a big group. How do you design something for such a big audience?
Yeah. So the first question around what do I measure? What are some kind of 3 key things that we measure? You know, there's a lot of different prioritization frameworks out there. I mean, there are a dime a dozen. What I always tell my team is what matters is not necessarily that we use one specific one, but that we use one and that we have some consistency in thinking about how we go about this. So my personal favorite is RICE. It stands for reach times impact times confidence divided by effort. And what it does is it gives you a really great way to frame a conversation around something that is going to go, something small that's going to reach a broad audience and broad members versus what's the impact of doing something really deep and solving it really well. And then assessing the confidence of, hey, we're taking a shot in the dark versus, there's something like we absolutely know we must do. All divided by effort, again, is the juice worth the squeeze. And so like when I think about what matters most to us, we obviously I want to build the coolest wellness club out there, the one that everybody wants to join and nobody wants to leave. And for me, that North Star is around engagement. And so how do I bring you in with the promise of weight loss? Because we know how to help you do that. But how do we actually genuinely deliver all these experiences that help you stay engaged? Because if you're engaged and you're going in your app, you're going to naturally be trying the various techniques and you're going to be following the program. You're going to be more successful. You're going to feel more accountability because you have friends in the app. They're in the Connect experience. They're in your coach-led experience. You're going to feel if you have that engagement. And so when we talk about our DAOs over mouths, when you see that engagement of the frequency and the depth of engagement in there, those are the types of things we look to because we want to make sure the only way you're successful in a wellness journey is if you stick to it. And, I always tell, I was once convinced to hike Half Dome at Yosemite, which is like a 16-hour hike. And oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking. But every switchback, I had to recommit myself. I'm like, okay, I'm in hour 2 and I've got 14 hours left. Oh my God. Every switchback, you have to keep reminding yourself, this is going to be worth it. And I'm going to stay on the journey. And our job is to help you at every one of those switchbacks. And sometimes you need an atta-girl and sometimes you need to try the tracking, right? You need different things depending on where you are on that journey. But at every switchback, our job is to help you overcome that challenge. And so that's why when we look at engagement, it's not about did you track to your points and stay within it? Because we all have bad days. We all have COVID wine. We've all got, we're like, I'm just can't. We've all been there. We've all been there. But it's what you do after that happens. Do you get back on the switchback? Do you get back on the hike and on the journey? And we're there to help you with that. And be like, girlfriend, we have all been there. We know. And so how do you help continue on that journey and figure out what is it that you need at any given moment? But ultimately, that's why I think about engagement. And, and even once you're achieving your weight loss goals, There's so much more to wellness. Are you sleeping well? Are you active? How do you maintain your weight loss is so much about all those other long-term behavioral changes. Like, we don't think of ourselves as a diet. We think of ourselves as a lifestyle. This isn't, Whole30, where it's like, okay, 30 days done. Now I'm going to go drink my face off. The fact is, this is about how do you help really create lasting behavioral change. And that requires that engagement and the ongoing, just, being there to help.
I love it. I'm curious about, where do you normally get your product inspirations? What kind of content do you consume? And how do you educate yourself and come up with what product to design and understanding women better?
Yeah, the first thing I do every morning is I track my breakfast. So I open my app, I go in, I track my breakfast because I want to experience what all of my members are experiencing. You're sitting there, you're like, no, it's good. I'm not hungry. This is good. I could 0-point foods. I'm saving my points for later. By the way, I lost 20 pounds on Weight Watchers 12 years ago. Like, I know this, but every morning I'm being reminded of, okay, we're on this journey. This is what I'm going to do. So being reminded of the things, because there's so much utility in what you need to do to just reinforce the behaviors, and seeing where's the friction points, where's the challenges, and where's it just easy and super fun. The second thing I do is I go to Connect. And Connect is our community platform. So we are launching coach-led communities, but we already have always had these peer-to-peer member communities in our Connect experience. And I got to tell you, Connect, the first time I went in there, I was floored. It is the most positive community I've ever seen on the internet. And I have seen a lot of communities. I help build community Sephora. I help build community, so many places. I've never seen a more positive, supportive community than in our Connect experience. And not just about weight loss. I mean, there's a lot of then and now, and people going like taking a victory lap, which is awesome. Because my God, some of the victory laps, you're like, oh, wow. But on top of it, it's people who are going, who share like, my husband left me as part of this, or I left my husband as part of this, or struggling with cancer. But the positivity of the community as they come together to support each other, because this notion of we're all on this journey together is so incredibly powerful. So every morning I both go and remind myself of the things that I need to do to improve and help our members be more successful. And then I look at it and I say, why do I care about making them more successful? Because, oh my God, we are helping our members change their lives. Mm-hmm. And that is a mission. I can't imagine any better mission to be on. And I know that when I went through it, it wasn't just about the 20 pounds I lost. It was about taking control of my life. I was in a difficult situation, and, it was just, you felt kind of out of control. Being able to actually be empowered to take control of your life was incredible for me. It was actually a huge amplifier as I really turned a corner from there in my career and my thinking about a lot of things. And the fact is, if I can help these members really change their lives, truly what better is there out there? So that's what I do every day. I will tell you, beyond that, other inspirations, I'm a bit of an omnivore when it comes to information. I love news. I love the Tim Ferriss podcast. Like, there's all kinds, I run the gamut. I love fiction. I love books. It's something where I'm pretty omnivorous and insatiable when it comes to bringing in that type of information. So it's all over the place. But also, it's just, it depends on the day. What inspires me, what I see on LinkedIn. It's just, I love learning about you, because you never know when you're going to get inspiration from some completely different space where it turns out they solve the same challenge that you have. And you just never know. So you shouldn't close yourself off, say, only listen to this or only go here.
Totally. When it comes to creating good products, or in general, what do you see is the biggest challenge for the chief product officer?
Well, I always say my favorite thing about WW is that I have these incredibly smart, passionate business partners, technology partners. We are all in this together. Our mission of who we're solving for, the collaboration, really, really passionate, super smart, all in it together. And then there are the days you're like, oh my God, it's this being at the intersection. Remember that Venn diagram? Mm-hmm. Being at the intersection of all of these different functional areas, it just means that there's this you're always constantly doing this balancing act. right? And, I think it's something that is, different places treat product management differently and have a different perspective on what is the role of product management. And I've articulated for you what I believe it to be, but I think different companies, it's all been this evolution. And so the hardest thing is, frankly, is letting go of your ego, because you're not the CEO of the product. The fact is, if you're going to be successful, it's if you get yourself out of the way and really think about how all of these other areas, these people are just as passionate. We're all at the center of the Venn diagram is creating the most engaging, compelling experience for our members that helps them be successful. And we all have a stake in that. We all have a role to play in that. We all have a hand in that. And so it's the, letting go of some of that ego. One of the best pieces of advice, I still remember getting it. It was the executive creative director of Cirque du Soleil. And he was addressing a room of, 60 plus VPs at Sephora, super senior group, talking to us. And he said, never mistake authority for influence. He said, when I got this role, I was like, okay, now I'm going to go rule everything. I'm going to go correct everything that happens out there. And as you get to be more and more senior, especially in product management, you start thinking, oh, now I get to be the CEO. I get to tell everybody what to do. Yay. You have to lean away from that, because the fact is it's through the influence, through the trust that you build and the relationships you build and that listening that you build with all of these various partners. That's how you actually get things together and be that team sport. And so, but that does require some days to let go of the ego and to let go of wanting to take your own victory lap. And especially in different companies, especially companies that are more traditional, that may not have as long a history of knowing what product management does. Because product management, when done well, oftentimes it's hard to point to it, right? Because so much of it's at that intersection. So much about is about creating that collaborative environment. So how do you do all of those things selflessly and bringing it all together, and then recognize it's not necessarily, and by the way, it's not all you, but how do we foster that environment, and then figuring out how to make sure that we are continuing to foster that environment and continuing to bring everyone together without falling prey to, oh, that was me, right? Because it wasn't just you. It never was.
I love it. You worked on so many diverse range of products. How do you become an expert in a particular industry really fast? Also, who is on your personal board of advisors? Who do you ask career and life advice from?
So how I first look at how do I learn new industries? I've said it in more interviews than I can possibly count. The best product managers, if your worst fear in life is being bored, you're probably a product manager. Because product managers thrive on learning new things and solving new problems. It's that 90% white space I talked about, right? And there's a lot of people who are really good at optimizing and A/B testing and continuing to iterate and optimize, and there's a role for that. But truly great product managers are the ones who can see the things that aren't there. And the way you see it is by understanding the unmet needs, listening behind that customer research. What is it that they're not saying? But also, what is it the need they're saying? Not what they tell you they want you to go do. Don't go build me a faster horse, or, is it the bigger iron lung, right? It got you the vaccine, oft repeated. But the fact is, how do you hear what is missing in what they need and figure out an innovative solution for it? And that always starts with the customer. It always starts with understanding the customer and those customers' unmet needs. And figuring out how do you innovate around that white space. And again, not being precious, being able to bring in a lot of diverse opinions and perspectives, both within your company and from other places, and find inspiration in all manner of places. So that's how I like to approach new industries. But also when I look for people to hire into my team, I'm far less about, hey, has this person done X before? I'm much more interested in, are they a good, strong product manager who thrives on learning new problems and on solving new problems? Now, you asked about my board of advisors, my personal board as well. So two things. So first of all, Julie Bornstein is one of our WW board members, and she's why I'm here. And somebody told me once, 80% of the decisions about your career happen when you're not in the room. It must have been 10, 15 years. I don't even remember who told me this, but think about that. 80% of the decisions about your career happen when you're not in the room. And at the time I was like, that's just crazy talk. That can't be right. I have to be in there. No, it is true. It is true. And I don't know if that's a statistical fact, but the fact is I know from experientially, so many decisions when you're promoting people, when you're introducing them, they happen when you're not in the room. And I know that Julie Bornstein, who I learned so much from working in her organization at Sephora, I mean, when I talk about like being authentic, seeing, being so passionate about solving for the customer, really, get shit done, being collaborative. She was such an incredible example there and such an incredible leader. And I've had the really good fortune of maintaining and building a relationship with her over the years. And like I said, she called me up and said, hey, there's this role at WW and this is you. And so, because sometimes other people can see you even clearer than you see yourself. I often tell people, you need to know what your hero power is. And the way you figure out what your hero power is two things. Ask your friend next to you because they see you way more clearly than you see yourself. And number two, chances are it's the thing that you take most for granted. Because it's that thing that is so easy for you because it's your hero power. So you just take it for granted. So you just like, oh, of course, everybody knows how to do this because it's so easy for me. It must be easy for everybody else. No, that's often a mark of a hero power. But it's other people who often can see what those hero powers are more clearly and see when they make the most sense in other areas. So I'm forever grateful to Julie introducing me to WW, but also the years of, the guidance and the advice. She's just been a fantastic, not just a mentor, but really a sponsor. During my time at Sephora and since then. I will also say I've had the very good fortune I have this friend and she is an executive coach. Her name is Alyssa Cohen. She's an incredible coach. I met her, 12, 14 years ago. And the thing about having an executive coach as a friend, you're like, yay, I get free coaching because she can't help herself. On the other hand, it makes for some very uncomfortable conversations. I remember this one dinner. We were in New York. We were having margaritas, I'm sure. And, and I just had this moment where I was like, I didn't get a callback for this job where I interviewed. And she's like, tell me more about that. She always loves saying, tell me more about that. It's always a clue. Be wary. But anyway. And I said, well, Alyssa, in the past 15 years, I've always gotten the jobs that I interviewed for. And I was all like, I was doing the humble brag, it was total humble brag. And she looked at me and she goes, Lucinda, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I'm sorry, did you misunderstand me? And she said, no. She said, that means you're applying for the wrong flipping jobs. And I was just like, what? She goes, you're not stretching. If you're not getting turned down, you're not applying for the right jobs. And she challenged me then and there. She said, next time I see you, I want you to come back with 10 no's. You need to go and get turned down 10 times because you know what's going to happen? You're going to think you're going to get turned down 10 times. You're going to get 4 yeses. And those are the jobs you should be applying for. And it literally, it was like I said, it was like 12 some odd years ago. And it just, my brain just like, poof, blew my mind because, she just held this mirror up in such a casual, easy way of saying, yeah, no, you really need to push yourself. And she's been a very good friend for, like I said, many years and has always given me amazing advice, even when I don't want to hear it. And that's what a good board does for you. They're not just there going, yay, atta girl. They're there to tell you not just what are your hero powers and your strengths, but also tell you when you're missing something. We all have blind spots. We all have blind spots and we all continue to have blind spots and we develop new ones. Yay, great, it's life. It's a constant struggle with, as new blind spots arise and you have to have people in your life. And my husband does it for me too, by the way. My husband is relentless about being like, really? I'm like, oh, can't I just have this one moment? But you want to surround yourself with people who challenge you and push you and help you become who you are and become the better who you are. I think people are like golf balls. We all have all these different facets to us, and who you choose to be your friends and your mentors are who bring out various aspects of you because different people bring out different elements of you. And it's up to you to choose who you want to spend your time with, that they bring out those aspects of you that make you a better you, not that bring you down.
I love it. I hear so many golden nugget from this conversation. I'm curious about, you mentioned earlier, the two people you consider as your friend and mentor. How did you find them? What are some actions you took to establish and navigate the friendship and mentorship? Essentially, how do you build up your network?
I think there's everybody talks about networking and the need to network. And, I've always hated the word networking because it sounds so transactional.
Yeah.
Because it was always the networking event. It was the noun of you go to network, right? Like go to a networking event. You go to this thing, and while you are there, networking will happen. And which puts it in this transactional moment of, hi, I've just met you. I would like you to do something for me. And in exchange, I will do something for you. How awkward does that sound? Right. And I think especially as a woman, I remember, back when I was at Gartner Group and, being a young woman, before Me Too was a thing. And, the fact was, it was always awkward because you're like, okay, so how there's all these different power dynamics, there's always different things. And it was a very awkward experience. And so what I've realized is that if you flip it around and stop thinking about it as networking and thinking about it as, I build relationships with friends all the time. It's perfectly natural. It's perfectly easy. And, why is it so much easier? It's like, well, because I actually care about who they are and what matters to them. And I root for them and I help them and vice versa. And as soon as you start thinking about it much more as building your network of friends versus, building a network of people who can just go out and help you. Like the fact is there's a lot of people who are going to want to help you for a variety of reasons. But the reason they're most going to want to help you is if they care about you and you care about them. And so I always encourage people, think of it less as, hey, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. Or, hey, could you do this for me? I'm always sort of like, well, buy me dinner first, right? You can't just go for the payoff. There has to be this actual connection, an emotional connection. It can't just be transactional, which is, by the way, how I think about our app as well. I'm always like, if your experience is just transactional, you're going to lose. You need to create that emotional connection of feeling like there's trust and we're actually looking out for what you want and what you need. And the same is true in your relationships. Whether it's personal, professional, what have you, if you don't care about people and they don't feel like you care about them, they're never going to be true, authentic relationships. And so I look at it as there's something to respect and appreciate about everybody I meet. I don't always know what it is. And by the way, even people who make me crazy all the time, I always remind myself that there's got to be something, and I spend a lot of time looking for it to figure out what is it that is that person's hero power that I really respect and appreciate. Because it's also the more senior you get, the harder it is to find just that one single mentor who can be all things that you need. Instead, I look for micro mentors. I think about everybody I meet can be a mentor for me in some way or another, whether they know it or not, something that I can learn from them, something that I can, bring into my own treasure trove of insights and learnings, and get from that experience with them, that relationship with them. So it, for me, really is less about, okay, I'm going to pick this person, I'm going to go target them, and I'm going to stalk them, and I'm going to make them my network friend, right? I'm similar to those founders who are like, I'm going to make money. That's never, if that's your goal on its surface, on its own, very rarely is it going to be successful. If you go out there, I want to meet really interesting people who have something to learn from and something that and I care about what they have to say and vice versa, then you're going to find yourself with a really, really, supportive group of friends and helpers.
Totally. Well, thank you so much. So we're at the last part of our interview. My first question is what's your favorite book?
So fiction or nonfiction?
Either way, it's your favorite book. So
can I answer both? Yeah, I have so many. I read a lot. So my current favorite nonfiction book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It was such an incredible book. I listened to it on Audible back when we were commuting. And it's just so powerful because it's so much not about not giving, not caring. It's about choosing what are the things that actually matter to you and choosing what you care about and what is it that you value. And, even as you think about who you work for and the company where you are, does this company share my values? Do they value what I value? And, it's the older you get, if you're lucky, you get the opportunity, instead of just chasing the next thing, the next title, the next money, like chasing, after what's next. If you're lucky, you get to a point where you get to choose. And that's an incredible luxury and an incredible freedom. And being able to choose means you actually have to know why you're choosing it. You need to do a bit of that soul searching, right? Remember the whole part, you start to understand it if you're lucky in your 30s, in your 40s, start to actually lean into it. It really is about knowing, why are you leaning into it, and what matters to you, and what are you choosing? So I loved that book. I will also say Brene Brown, Dare to Lead, Radical Candor. There's so many fantastic books out there right now that I recommend all the time in various circumstances. But for me, overall, the subtle art of, and I keep repeating it and trying not to actually say it, but the subtle art of not giving a F-bomb is, I thought was just a really powerful read. Fiction-wise, I'm a huge fan of Haruki Murakami, The Wind-Up Chronicle, as well as The Name of the Wind, Patrick Rothfuss. I'm a total sci-fi nerd. What can I say? I'm like total sci-fi and fantasy geek. But anyway, now I digress. So yeah, those are my favorites.
Love it. Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Well, I mean, Oprah obviously is going to have to host my dinner party. It was funny. I was having this conversation with my husband last night too. So I had the fortune of meeting Ms. Winfrey at our board meeting in Denver the week before I started, the week before the pandemic really came crashing down. And she is as wonderful and beautiful a human being as you hope and expect that she is. I was blown away, and not just because I was starstruck, because, I was all trying to be cool and not look like I was a crazy person, like stalker who, hasn't even joined the company yet. But all the executives, everybody else is all cool. I'm like, I can be cool. But she was just lovely. She was absolutely lovely and welcoming and warm and engaging at the board dinner. Anyway, I would have her host my dinner party all day long, every day. And frankly, I would say, bring who you want. Michelle Obama, Gail, yeah, all day long. Her list of badass women who she is, friends with. And frankly, when I think about all the women who we had on tour with us during Oprah's tour, back when people got together en masse, Tina Fey, Amy Schumer, Tracy Ellis Ross, just amazing, amazing women out there who are breaking barriers, who are setting the standard in so many different walks of life. And those are the kind of people I'd invite to my dinner.
Oh my God, you're having the coolest parties. Who made the biggest impact in your life?
My husband.
Aww.
I mean, it's, we've been married almost 20 years now. And, I always tell people, it's not about finding perfect. It's about finding perfect for you. And people are like, how did you know? I'm like, well, because it was easy. Not because life is easy together, not because life is ever easy, but because it's easy to choose being together over being right, being together over all the other, craziness in the world. And, for me, and he's been he's an entrepreneur. He started a bunch of companies. And I always do the big company stuff. So we have this whole portfolio approach to things. But like I said, we are really good at both supporting each other while at the same time constantly pushing each other and challenging each other and really helping each other become who we have the ability to become. And, that partnership, I can't imagine being in a relationship that isn't like that. And I think back about, the people I dated before him, and none of them would have panned out this well, not by a long shot. And I feel so fortunate. It's funny, we're both from Maryland, but we met up here in California in the dot-com boom and, in 1999. And, much to the amusement of our families, you had to move 3,000 miles away to meet a guy from down the street. Sure. Okay. But truly having that partnership and having a strong partner who is that supportive is just, there's just nobody else I could possibly say.
Where can we find you when you're not at work?
Well, these days we're always at home, but and it's funny because I actually recently during this pandemic we moved from Berkeley up to Santa Rosa. I was worried about the supply of wine. I needed to be closer by. No, we really looked around and said, hey, if we're going to be working out of our houses so much, let's make sure that we are in a place where we really want to be. So when I'm not at work, I'm either golfing, which is funny because I don't have kids, so I've got toys, time, and golf handicap, or on my Peloton. I'm Peloton obsessed. I'm not going to lie. Robin Arzon, Cuddy Rigsby, I'm Peloton obsessed. And it's what helped keep me sane through this whole pandemic. But yeah, between golf, which helps me calm my head, and Peloton, which helps me get all the extra energy out, those are the things I love.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Grace, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. You asked great questions. It's just been such a normal, natural, fun, engaging conversation. And by the way, you, my friend, also badass woman. The things you've already done is really impressive.
Thank you. Oh my God, I'm about to cry. Literally, you're my new hero. So I feel like you just have this personality that just amazing. All right. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Smart Venture Podcast. If you like it, please leave us a quick review and hit subscribe so you don't miss any tips from the experts. If you want to receive our updates, please leave your email at smartventurepod.com. If you want to connect with me, all my socials are at Grace Gong GG. Besides LinkedIn, it's just Grace Gong. I'd love to connect with you and let me know your thought about the show. Now you can also listen to Smart Venture Podcast on YouTube. Go to smartventurepod.com, click the YouTube link on the top banner. Don't forget to hit subscribe and smash the like button. See you next time.